Welcome, party people. We are reading the news today and starting with Trump to sign order making English the official U.S. language. The order will establish a national language for the first time in the nation's 250-year history. And some people are saying it's about goddamn time. President Trump plans to sign an executive order making English the official language of the United States, according to White House officials. The order will establish a national language for the first time in the nation's 250-year history. And just as an aside, it's kind of nice because, like, up until now, you have this situation where, I've been without a job for 18 months now, something like that. And I'm seeing everywhere is bilingual preferred, bilingual needed, even for entry-level shit that's not like translator work or whatever, right? And I think it's kind of fucked up that because I'm too retarded to learn a second language, that's somehow a bearing on the ability to use a cash register. Trump's order would rescind President Bill Clinton's August 2000 directive requiring agencies and other recipients of federal funds to provide services for those with limited English proficiency. And that's another thing. It saves a lot of money in not having to run off the additional forms or whatever in whatever the people's native language is, translation services, all that. It's, the world over, it's not uncommon to have a national language. And yet, somehow, when the United States does it, it's disrespectful or it's xenophobic or this, that, and the other. And it's like, I'm sorry, but if I were to go to, I don't know, Niger or Cambodia or some other country where English is not the dominantly spoken language, the last thing that I would do is get indignant over the fact that I don't speak the language and demand that they cater to me and provide everything in English. It is absurd. Now, like, if a company in the US wants to do it, that's fine, but there's a big difference between mandating multiple languages and encouraging others to do it, but mandating that if you're going to live here, you speak the language. It's not. Trump's designation would allow federal agencies to maintain their current policies and continue to provide documents and services in other languages, but it encourages new Americans to adopt a national language that opens the door to greater opportunities, and that's nice. It gives us something, because it gives us something that we can all have as a common understanding or a common thread uniting all of these people from disparate backgrounds under one banner and under one language. It's absurd to think that, and that's not to say that multiculturalism is inherently bad or causes fractures that are unnecessary, only that in order for a nation to exist and to prosper, you need something to unify behind and under. And when you remove the national identity, when you taint the minds of the children that the country is evil for its past, ignoring the fact that if you go far enough back in any country's or people's history, they've committed some atrocities. You remove that unification and you cause just this division that we're seeing, and that's bullshit. I hate it. Many online are celebrating the move. Pressing one for English lost at the ballot box. Facts. Long overdue. Founding documents were written in the English language, or language unites us all. If you immigrate to the U.S., you must assimilate to us, not the other way. And that's fair. You can still hang on to your traditions and practices in your home. You can still dress in a way that is reflective and respectful to your home culture, but when you come here, it is with there's the implicit understanding that you are doing so because you were dissatisfied to some degree or another with where you were. Happy people don't like people who are content with what they have and where they're at don't make it a point to move to a different country, right? You do that because something where you're at is lacking, whether that's financial opportunity, whether that's safety, whatever the case may be. You're not moving to the U.S. so you can turn it into what you left. You're moving to the U.S. because you want a better life and an opportunity that the United States offers, or at least that's the perception. We have room for but one language in our country, and that is the English language. And that's not even to say that, like, learning extra languages is bad. I wish I had the brain to do it, because the way, like, they've done studies on how much that affects test scores and whatnot, and it's, like, knowing 2 languages is a huge benefit to people. It's just, like, there should be a standardized language. English competency should be required for citizenship. Voting forms should only be in English. Certain jurors get court-assigned translators. That's not a jury of peers. Fact. Plus, you don't know, like with the in that case in particular, that's egregious. You don't know if the translator is accurately conveying the information to the juror, right? I mean, we'd assume that they would, and we'd hope that they would, but who's to say that they're not railroading the guy on trial to the jury, or to the juror that's doesn't speak, like, it makes no sense. Long overdue. In this country we speak English. Anyway, that was a nice little short one to kind of ruffle the feathers before we get to the real feather rustling. Whew. And that was a doozy. Zelensky leaves White House after Trump talks devolve. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky cut his White House visit short after a spat in the Oval Office led President Trump to call off negotiations. You know, when you go to a benefactor hat in hand asking for support and money, it's probably not a good idea to, like, whip your dick out and wave it around and demand that your benefactor take it. Just a suggestion for future interactions, Mr. Zelensky, if you're out there. Maybe don't be a dick. Trump and Zelensky were slated to hold a press conference in the East Room of the White House after a bilateral lunch meeting in the Cabinet Room. But when their first meeting of the day in the Oval Office turned contentious, the Ukrainian leader departed. Trump called off negotiations with Zelensky in a post on Truth Social, in which he said the Ukrainian president is not ready for a peace deal. It's amazing what comes out through emotion, and I have determined that President Zelensky is not ready for peace if America is involved, because he feels our involvement gives him a big advantage in negotiations. Trump said, he can come back when he's ready for peace. Nice. The meeting in the Oval Office devolved into a heated argument in an extraordinary turn of events, during which Trump called the Ukrainian president disrespectful, and Vice President Vance accused him of not being grateful enough for the president's help. Beast! It's like, yeah, dude, we're not just cutting you checks carte blanche anymore. Free ride's over. Like, we don't want to get dragged into World War III. We don't want to piss off anyone any more than we absolutely have to defend and uphold the treaties that we have existing. And this whole Ukraine thing is just a perfect encapsulation of all of it, because we have no treaty binding us to them. They have questionable government goings-ons with regard to, like, corruption and whatnot. And we've been sending them billions and billions of dollars of resources, and to get uppity when we're like, hey, maybe you should negotiate peace and, like, storm out of the... Like, to get uppity when we tell them to work towards peace rather than, like, trying to fucking take it to Moscow, it's like, dude, your country's name literally means borderlands of Russia. Like, get over yourselves. Take a peace deal. Don't be so pig-headed that it devolves into, like, real warfare. Like, it's bad enough that it's regional and confined to that, but start dragging in NATO members, it's like, dude, this has the potential to get really fucking messy really fucking fast. Friday's meeting was initially focused on an agreement for the U.S. to access critical minerals in Ukraine, and we're not even asking that they pay it back in cash. We're asking that they pay it back in letting us mine and profit off of their resources, because we have to have something to motivate us to continue to do this. It is not without its risk. It does not come without its cost to other diplomatic relations the world over. It does not come without its political toll domestically either. And so to get upset when we ask for a little bit in return when you've given nothing the entire time, because, I mean, really and truly, what does the U.S. get out of the support that we've given already? Other than further hostilities with, like, further driving the wedge between us and Russia, further driving the wedge between left and right here at home. It is divisive, it is costly in terms of human life and resources and material, and we've just been give, and no take, and that's fine for a short term, but, dude, we're going on, what, 3 years now? And, dude, Ukraine is peanuts compared to Russia. Like, Russia's not the greatest military on the planet, but they're not a fucking little backwater either. I mean, shit, they helped us, like, they practically were the ones that won World War II in the Europe theater anyway. So, to get indignant over that, it's just dumb. Nobody gets a free ride, dude. Monday marked 3 years since Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, which Trump has insisted wouldn't have occurred if he was president, and that he can bring peace deal to quickly end it. And that's the thing, too. He's right that it wouldn't have occurred if he was president, because he was president for the years leading up to it, and it didn't happen. And part of that was that he was a bit bold with Putin. Reportedly, what did he say on a phone call? He said something along the lines of, hey, Putin, that Moscow you've got's a really nice place. It would be a shame if someone nuked it. Keep your hands off of Ukraine, when Trump was president. And Putin isn't a dumb guy. Hearing that, thinks he wouldn't do that. Would he? And just because of who Trump is, the unknown quantity that he is, caused that tiniest bit of hesitation of he might actually do it, which resulted in them not doing it. Which really, really goes to show how much of a fucking puppet of Putin Trump is in reality, because if you were controlling the strings of the leader of your greatest adversary, right? Trump, let's take this for what it is for a second. Let's just grant that premise that Trump is a pawn of Putin. If Trump was under Putin's control, Putin could march right into Kiev without so much as a worry that the U.S. would do anything in that situation, right? Because if I have a person at the levers of power in the country that is my greatest adversary, and I want to do something that they would normally oppose, well, having my puppet installed at the highest level of government in their country means that I can just do whatever the fuck I want without fear of reprisal from them. And yet, here Trump is fighting, reportedly making that comment about nuking Moscow, keeping Putin from rushing into Ukraine full tilt. Like, the fact that Putin moved on Ukraine 2 years after Trump was out is proof enough in its own right that the dude's not under the control of Putin. Like, I don't even know how people can continue to justify that shit. That's fucking retarded. Next up, I'm fucking flying through them today. Might be a short one. Ain't got a whole lot of, I guess, side material this time around. But I can talk about a couple things that I'm planning on doing after we wrap all this up to pad it out. So, I said what I said. J.D. Vance calls out Prime Minister Keir Starmer to his face for infringements on free speech. In a candid Oval Office exchange, J.D. Vance confronts the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer over free speech concerns, highlighting implications of both nations, or for both nations. President Trump welcomed British Prime Minister Keir Starmer to the White House on Thursday. Oh, God. President Trump, Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and Prime Minister Keir Starmer met in the Oval Office to discuss a potential peace deal between Russia and Ukraine and the future of NATO. At one point, J.D. Vance called out Starmer to his face for infringements on free speech. Based. I mean, it's about time that we start standing up for the principles we say we value at every level, and when we are put to, or like when we see it being, when we see things like free speech being violated and trampled on in foreign countries, like in Britain where they're arresting people for saying naughty words on the internet, it's good to see somebody actually taking it seriously and standing up for the principle rather than doing what's comfortable or politically expedient. I said what I said, J.D. Vance said during the Oval Office meeting. We know that there have been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British. Of course, what the British do in their own country is up to them, but can also affect American technology companies and by extension American citizens, Vance said. And what he's talking about here is a law that Britain has against hate speech, quote unquote, where they've determined hate to mean anything that offends the sensibilities of the delicate. And they've vowed to jail and arrest and jail not just their own subjects, but they've said things about issuing international warrants and extraditing people of other countries to face trial in Britain for violating British hate speech. And, you know, me being the edgy person that I am, immediately went straight to this dude's Twitter and dropped what is very, very much so considered hate speech in that country, to say, basically saying, do it. Because stuff like that needs to be not just called out by Vance, but by the people paying attention that believe in those principles here. We need to be doing what we can to flood those systems with so much noise and garbage that it overwhelms them, because these people will not rest until they have absolute control. And for an allied nation of the United States to say they're going to extradite American citizens for violating British hate speech laws is so far beyond the pale. We don't overstep onto what their citizens do as far as anything goes. That's just a line you do not cross, period. And to double down on that, we beat your asses in 1776. If you're up for round two, let's fucking go. But I don't think that would be good for anybody, and I would prefer it if you just kept your tyranny to your sad, sorry, soggy little island, eat your tea and crumpets, and fucking worship the fucking ground the queen walks on. Fuck you, Britain. You got bad teeth. You suck. Keep your laws out of my fucking speech. And then, so Vance says all that. So that is something that we'll talk about today at lunch. Watch, got the video link, whatever. Vance doubles down on his concerns. British police have been arresting people over their social media posts criticizing transgender individuals. Is this what Keir Starmer means when he says the UK has free speech? And then it's, someone has been caused anxiety based on your social media post, and this is why you're being arrested. Like, your words offended somebody and made them upset, therefore we're gonna throw you in a fucking jail and shoot you if you don't comply. Like, dude, get bent. Not gonna, no. BBC said the man was arrested for malicious communications, and a man who recorded the incident was arrested for allegedly obstructing an arrest. So now documenting the tyranny in an objective third-party manner is considered obstructing an arrest. Let's just look up what does the word obstruct mean? Like definitionally, obstruct. Does it mean to document? Does it mean to stand by and watch? No, obstruct means to block or fill, as in a passage or an opening, with an obstacle or obstacles. To impede, retard, or interfere with, i.e. hinder. To interfere with. Does recording something, standing off to the side, interfere with anything? No. Not really. They'll make a case that it does because it's another person or whatever, but at the end of the day, they're just standing there, non-violently, recording, documenting. That's not an interference. That's not an impediment. That's not a retard. Well, it is being, I mean, it's the British police being retarded, but not in that definition. More in the window-licking, eating potatoes as cannibalism kind of fucking definition, so kind of weak. Hampshire government provides this handy flyer on their 1984 approach to free speech, noting that malicious communication includes content grossly offensive, vulgar, outrageous, shameful, shocking, abusive, insulting. To who? Because that's the other question, is offensive to who? Vulgar according to whose standards? Outrageous by what measure? Shameful to... Because by that definition, the way that the fucking police are acting in Britain is shameful and shocking and abusive and insulting. It's insulting to human rights. It's abusive to the people that they're sworn to protect. It's shocking to the world to see a country that is the birthplace of the post-Enlightenment, like, rationality movement and liberalism in general, going so far, like, going so hard against their own founding principles. Fuck you. That is indecent, degrading, humiliating, improper, especially in relation to sexual matters. Okay, well, indecent, again, by whose standards? Because they brought up transgenderism earlier, and I don't think there's anything wrong with people doing whatever the fuck they want to do to their own bodies. Like, you want to chop your dick off, go for it. You want to get a dick sewn onto you, go for it. I don't care if you want 13 sewn to you. Just don't do it to kids, and don't fucking act like it gives you some magical privileged position in society. You're just another person. Be interesting despite your genitals. I don't know how hard of a concept that is to grasp, but while we're on the subject, it's degrading, arguably, to women to put them in a prison with a man who identifies as a woman. It's humiliating to them for that. It would be improper, I would think. So, again, practice what you preach, assholes. That is of a threatening nature, and a threat is believed to be real. Well, again, this is also very subjective, because believed to be real by who? The person receiving the threat? An objective third party? The person making the threat? Some coalition of these people? Like, open fucking invitation to the PM of Britain. You're a fucking twat. You're a tyrant. You are abusing. You are advocating the abuse of your citizens. And as an American who is the descendant of people who kicked your ass in 1776, I am wholeheartedly making the statement that if you so much as move to try to do some shit like this towards any one of my countrymen, I will make it a personal mission to see to it that we fucking reignite the fires of 1776. Like, you can fuck yourself. That is sent using false information that is believed to be false by the sender. Like, so, fraud? Thought fraud was already illegal. Sent to cause a person or anyone else anxiety or stress. And this is the whole thing, is that the person being offended is making a choice to be offended. Because any of the words on the paper or the screen or that they hear are no different than those words in different contexts. It's just that in the context that they're received, the person being offended is choosing to react in a way that shows that they are giving those words power. Because absent the person getting offended, the words mean nothing. There has to be a recipient to take those words, interpret them in such a way that is going to cause them stress, and then not just interpret them in that way, but make the conscious decision to let them affect them in that way. It's like the discussion around the N-word in the US and in English in general. We can all agree that the sound of the word is not what causes the offense. Otherwise, words like vinegar would also be off limits because they possess the same sound. So that's not it. It's not the eardrum vibrating. It's not the way the word appears on screen, because if you just share out a lyrics page where it's written, you didn't write that, but it's still there on screen. So it's not that. It's not the arrangement of the letters. And furthermore, and here's the thing, even the actual intended meaning of it by the person using it in the first place isn't what matters, because if that were the case, saying the N-word and actually saying the word in contexts where you don't mean any harm by them, it wouldn't be an issue. And so you're only left to conclude that all of the problem with it is with the people receiving the word and hearing it and choosing to get upset. And it's the same case here with these British hate speech laws. So to get upset, to get defensive because our country has finally reached down, heaved itself up by its own bootstraps, and decided to walk the walk when it actually comes to defending the principles that we hold near and dear and that define us as Americans, I don't care if you get offended by it. Good. Get offended by it. You're making that choice. You're free to do so, but you're not free to jail and arrest innocent people who have done nothing wrong. Free speech is one of those things that I do not fucking sway on at all. You should be able to yell fire in a crowded theater all you want. Next one. Breaking. Thomas Matthew Crooks, i.e. Lee Tardy Oswald, may have had an accomplice, says private investigator. He's got his own Grassy Knoll conspiracy theory growing. Look at this! We don't think he acted alone. Would-be assassin of President Donald J. God Emperor Trump. I'm not going to say his name. I don't think he deserves a recognition. We're going to call him Lee Tardy Oswald. May have had an accomplice in the assassination attempts. Attempts with an S? I was under the impression that Lee Tardy Oswald only had one attempt and missed, and very quickly learned why, if you're going to take a swing on the king, you don't want to miss, because you're going to get fucking 300 Win Mag to the bridge of your nose, and it's going to make some... You ever see Gallagher? There's Sledge-O-Matic and something like that. This comes nearly 9 months since the shooting in Butler, Pennsylvania. According to the outlet, sources familiar with the matter, so we may have pulled this out of our ass, we don't know, said that the FBI has run interference in trying to find out why Lee Tardy Oswald carried out the shootings. The shooter left no manifesto. However, the outlet reported that a private investigator believes a criminal network was working with Lee Tardy Oswald at the time of the assassination attempt. Interesting. makes a whole lot more sense now why the Southern District of New York field office isn't releasing those fucking papers to Pam Bondi, although that's its own clusterfuck of bullshit. Private investigator Doug Hagman told the outlet, "We don't think he acted alone. This took a lot of coordination, in my view. Lee Tardy Oswald was handled by more than one individual and he was used for this assassination attempt. And I wouldn't preclude the possibility that there were people at the rally itself helping him." That, if true, is terrifying. Though not at all surprising, and I really hope that we can get to the bottom of shit like this very quickly, very publicly, and that it is dealt with swiftly and handily. Hagman, as well as his team of 6 other investigators, have been working the case. They have interviewed dozens of people. They've also looked into the location of a device that was geolocated to be with Lee Tardy Oswald at the time of the shooting. According to their work, that device is still pinging at Bethel Park High School. Interesting. Crooks fired a total of 8 shots towards the direction of Donald Trump, striking him once in the ear and hitting others in the crowd behind him, including Corey Comparatori, a retired fireman in the area. He was killed by the shots. 2 others were critically injured as a result, David Dutch and James Copenhaver, who were both hospitalized. In the aftermath of the shooting, we found out that American citizens on the left are absolutely unhinged and should probably themselves be investigated. Now, in the aftermath of the shooting, security failures and a lack of coordination between the U.S. Secret Service and local law enforcement was to blame, which led to the resignation of the Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle. The aftermath of the shooting, is insane. The amount of people thinking that it was something to be anything but concerned about. And I like how I make that statement following that big monologue on free speech. They're right, they're free to say it. I'm free to think that they're assholes for saying it. Crooks was killed by a counter-sniper amid the chaos. I said his name again, goddammit. Lee Tardy Oswald was killed by a counter-sniper amid the chaos at 6:25 p.m. Hagman told the outlet that he has gotten an escort to the Butler County line, where he was then told to leave on 2 separate occasions, and as he and his team of 6 others have been investigating the attempt. Lee Tardy Oswald had fantastic grades throughout high school, even got a 1530 out of 1600 SAT, and some have wondered what drove the young 20-year-old to attempt the assassination of Trump. The media. The constant lying. The use of the word Hitler. Saying he's an existential threat. Lie. Gee, I wonder. You don't get to call somebody Hitler for... you don't call somebody Hitler for 10 years without any kind of fucking downstream effects of it. People will start to eventually believe that he is, even if they're retarded for doing so. And just the extreme rhetoric around anything that the left does not agree with in this country is what's really concerning here. Because you've created such a fucking monster of bullshit and such a fucking impenetrable echo chamber that you drop any kind of contrary evidence to it, sourced fucking... If for whatever reason they actually accept the source, they still just ignore the information. There's nothing on the left that indicates to me that there's a good faith effort to try to understand what the right believes, or to try to find a middle ground or common cause with the right. And you wonder what caused Lee Tardy Oswald to take the shot. It's convincing him that the Orange Man is actually Hitler. That's what caused it. And that's what's causing everything else, is this irresponsibility among the media where they just fucking catastrophize and take everything to such an absurd degree. And what's really fucked up about all of that is when you continue to do that for so long, you take normal things and blow them so far out of proportion. When something actually bad comes along, people aren't going to believe you, or people are going to flock to it and support it just to spite you. So it's this double-edged sword of fuckery that needs to just go away. Xavier Harmon, who said Lee Tardy Oswald was his little buddy, should probably be investigated for that remark, told reporters he had no idea what drove the would-be assassin to take the shots at Trump. I just didn't believe it when I heard it. Tom was the he's a funny, quirky little guy in class who excelled. When he'd finish, he always go back and help his classmates, very intelligent. I just didn't believe it when I heard it. I just read that one. I don't think he set out to... You don't think he set out to do that? Because... And maybe this is just how I was raised, but... You don't point a gun at somebody you're not intending to kill. Period. You point a gun at somebody, your intent is to pull the trigger and kill them. Or it had better be. But... Like, that's one of the main rules of gun safety. You don't point a gun in a direction of anything that you don't want to destroy. So for him to point a gun at Trump, the intent is very clear to me. Like, you don't walk up to your buddy that you haven't seen in a couple months and just pull out a gun and point it at him and be like, hey, what's up, man? Like, my guess is he messed with the wrong individuals about what they were going to do, and it was different from what he thought it was going to be. Okay. And if that were the case, he wouldn't have been on the roof with a rifle. Anyone planning to do this would leave some sort of breadcrumbs, but there's nothing, no paperwork, no itinerary, no nothing. No even him going to websites to do research. Gee. Almost makes you think there was some kind of involvement of some clandestine organization that specializes in covering the tracks of their assets so that people don't know what the real truth is. There's another case like this. I think it happened in Las Vegas, where a guy was on the upper floors of the Mandalay Bay and he fired onto a crowd of people at a concert. Where'd that one go? Whatever happened to that one? Anybody? Rep. Clay Higgins, Republican from Louisiana, who has been investigating the circumstances of Lee Tardy Oswald's action and death, said that a drug may have drove... he was drugged. I mean, I guess MK Ultra, maybe? Something happened to make him go crazy, and that's why I think it might have been pharmaceutical... Oh, SSRI murder pills. I doubt it. He performed an attempted assassination, and he was committed all the way through to death. Yes, he was. He was not acting erratic, but he was a wild lunatic at the same time. Incredibly calculating and incredibly smart. Yep. However, like the teachers, other people who knew him could not imagine what motivated the assassination attempt. It's presented like an open and shut case of, oh, he went crazy, but it doesn't add up. It's like JFK. Do we think we've become so modern it wouldn't happen again? Dude, I'm saying it right here, right now. One of the three-letter intelligentsia critter agencies was helping this kid. Maybe a foreign nation, I don't know, doubt that one as much, because that one would have been juicy enough and would have been high enough profile that somebody would have had to have caught it. But anyway, speaking of foreign nations, you know, this one is so sad. We were so close to peace here. North Korea says it performed cruise missile tests days after it vowed to respond to U.S. threats. North Korea says it has test-fired strategic cruise missiles to demonstrate its nuclear counterattack capability. It's so sad to see them back in the news saber-rattling, because Donald Trump's first term, everybody was like, oh, North Korea, World War III, Trump, World War III, nuclear bombs, blah, 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 rah, rah, rah. Dude starts talking to Kim Jong-un. Next thing you know, Donald Trump is the first president in U.S. history to cross the DMZ. Not just that, but he did it without a security detail following him. Massive show of good faith. Probably a little dumb on his part. But it all worked out, and for the first time in forever, you had this situation where peace with North Korea might have actually been a thing that could happen. And they were coming to the talks. They were working on cooling their rhetoric. They weren't doing stupid shit like this. And then it all goes out the window when Biden gets in office, and here we are right back at square one. Somebody get Dennis Rodman, send him over there, let's start the talks again, let's just... One more time, people. But, like, Trump walking into North Korea. Insane! Like, that peace is possible! Anyway. North Korea said Friday it had test-fired strategic cruise missiles to demonstrate its nuclear counterattack capability, days after it vowed it would respond to what it called escalating U.S.-led hostilities since the start of the Trump administration. See, I don't recall the last time I heard the U.S. talking about North Korea. Are they mad that Trump hasn't called yet? Is this a jilted lovers thing? The official Korean Central News Agency said leader Kim Jong-un oversaw the missile tests off the country's west coast Wednesday. They were the North's fourth missile launch event this year and second of President Trump's second term. The launches were designed to inform the enemies who are seriously violating our security environment and fostering and escalating the confrontation environment of the North Korean military's counterattack capability and the readiness of its nuclear operations. Kim expressed satisfaction over the results. These missiles are good. Go get me another peasants. I must eat them. Dude seriously looks like he eats all the food in the country. Which isn't much, but... Expressed satisfaction over the results of the drills and said the military must be fully ready to use its nuclear weapons. Yes. If you have weapons, you must be fully ready to use them. That's just... It'd be like going out in public with a pistol and not intending to have to use it, or not intending to use it if you had to. Like, when I carry, I hope that I never have to draw it, but I know if I have to draw it, it's going to go boom very quickly shortly thereafter, because I'm not drawing it unless I fucking am going to be putting a couple down range to stop an active threat. I mean, that's just a good doctrine to have with weapons. You should be willing to use them if you have them, otherwise they don't do you any good. Kim expressed satisfaction over the results. Already read that part. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said in a statement later Friday that it had detected and tracked the North Korean launches. Said the South Korean military maintains readiness to repel any potential provocation by the Norks based on the solid South Korea-U.S. military alliance. Since his inauguration on January 20th, Trump has boasted of his summit with Kim during his first term and said he would reach out to Kim again. North Korea hasn't directly responded to Trump's overture, as it continues its typical aggressive rhetoric against the U.S. and weapons testing activities. Many experts say Kim, now preoccupied with his support of Russia's war against Ukraine, with supply of weapons and troops, won't likely embrace Trump's outreach anytime soon. They say Kim could reconsider if he doubts he'll maintain North Korea's solid cooperation with Russia after the war ends. Last Saturday, North Korea's defense ministry alleged that the U.S. and its allies were ramping up more serious military provocations targeting North Korea since Trump took power. I'm going to need to see a source on that one, buddy. You know what we're about, North Korea. Come on. It cited the recent U.S.-South Korean aerial exercise involving a U.S. B-1 bomber and other reported activities involving U.S. military assets. A defense ministry statement said North Korea will counter the strategic threat of the U.S. with strategic means. Using the word strategic a lot there. Makes me think you don't actually have a strategy. Kim and Trump met 3 times from 2018 to 19 to discuss the fate of North Korea's nuclear program, but their diplomacy derailed due to disputes over U.S.-led sanctions of the North. Kim has since sharply increased the pace of weapons tests to expand and modernize the nuclear arsenal, having a bigger nuclear arsenal now. Experts say Kim would think he could win greater U.S. concessions if he revives diplomacy with Trump. Yes. Probably. We're willing to make deals. We like peace. Peace is good. Peace is good. No bombs. No kill. Like, As Trump said in that CNN town hall, I want to see people stop dying. Noble goal. Let's see, what do we got on space weather today? Got a geomagnetic storm warning. High speed stream of solar wind has engulfed the Earth. It's blowing very, very fast. Millions of miles per hour, or a million miles an hour, in fact. Almost 2 million miles an hour. High latitude auroras. Photographic auroras could appear in the northern U.S. states. Aurora alert. SMS sign up. Got a nice little new moon on the coronagraph. That's neat. Still no sunspot, or no sunspotless days. Still got a bunch of sunspots on the Earth-facing disk. Big old coronal hole right center disk. Neat. Neato. Wind maps. What are we looking at here? Oh, that's cool. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Kind of a breakdown there, but it'd be cool to see it all just like perfectly aligned. What do we got? Let's see. Pop over here. How is our jet stream looking? Jet stream looking good. Looking like it's getting rid of that little breaking thing and kind of straightening out a little bit. Still got a little bit of... Okay. Let's see. Trying to remember how hurricanes move. So that's a little bit of a low pressure system, I think. Where's our HPA? No. Yeah. God damn it, where's my fucking surface pressure? Let's go down a little bit in the atmosphere. Just a nice little low pressure system chilling there. That's cool. What do temperatures look like? Surface temps warming up. Spring is around the corner. That lion ass glorified groundhog gopher thing. Puxatawny Phil. Fuck you. And last but not least, quick look at the Doppler radar. Current radar not available. Refresh. And looks like we still got that just up over the northeast, mostly in Canada, Michigan, or Minnesota, Michigan. I know my states. Shut up. Otherwise, relatively clear rest of the country. But since these streams have been consistently at 4:30 in the afternoon each day, and I've got now 25 news articles cited for the week, and since I write over on Substack for my own outlet, the Redneck Hipster at Substack, go sign up. It's a free email. Makes me happy. I like the dopamine I get when I see a new subscriber pop up. What I plan on doing is taking these articles, or these news sources, and kind of looking at what seems to be the major theme or themes of the week, and doing a weekly breakdown of kind of the larger issue, overarching issues for the week at the end of each week, since I'll have all the research done. And so keep an eye out for that. Also doing something with online arguments, since I love them so much. But that one's not as well developed. But anyway, it's been fun reading the news for everybody. And until I'm going to take the weekend off, and then I'll be back here on Monday at 4:30 until